All right. Good evening, everyone. It sounds like we're having a good time. Yeah? Can you hold a thumbs up in the air if you're having a good time? Yes. Awesome. I'm so happy. Well, good evening, and welcome to the 19th edition of the Booklovers Ball, a fundraiser for the Pueblo Library Foundation. I hope that you're all enjoying the Booklovers Ball aquarium that we're sitting in, complete with 2 adult octopi and 1 juvenile, we'll say, octopi over the bar, as well as seaweed that you don't see that often in Colorado, and jellyfish. I hope you're enjoying our theme, and I hope that you enjoyed the book this year. My name is... I'm Nick Potter, and I have the great pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of the Pueblo Library Foundation, and I will also serve as your MC for this evening. Oh, I got fans! Yes! I didn't even pay them to do the yay. The last time that we were together at an in-person Booklovers Ball was November 8th of 2019. Believe it or not, we have not been able to hold this event in person for 47 months. But doesn't it feel good to be back in person at the Rawlings Library? And I can say it's great to see so many of you back here in person in this beautiful venue. I want to welcome you all in person as well as welcome those that are joining us virtually. This is a very modern event. We're doing this as a hybrid format. And if you have any questions during the event for our author, we have paper and pen at your table. So please take your questions back to the CSU Pueblo bookstore table just outside of the glass doors and drop off your questions. We will collect those during the program that the author is going to give, and then we'll read those as a moderated forum to the author. If you're joining us virtually, simply enter your questions into the comment box below the online video player. We will compile questions and read them to the author later in the program. We have a delicious meal prepared for you all that I'm sure you're ready to partake in. We will be dismissing everyone by table number. Sarah and Shelby, can you guys raise your hand where you are? Sarah and Shelby? Oh, another Shelby. Great, right over here. And right over there by the TV. They will be dismissing everyone by table number. So make sure to pay attention as they're coming around to let you know when it's your table's turn to go to the buffet line. We hope to keep this organized so that you can all get your meal quickly. Please wait until your table is dismissed to venture up to the buffet line. We will resume the program as soon as everyone is seated from plating their meal. As you are getting your food, check on your silent auction items, grab a drink from the bars, and know that there's a bar over here in the corner as well as one by the food. And enjoy it. I will be back up here momentarily to begin our program. I will see you back here very soon. Our first tables to release are 14, 15, 24, as well as 13. So you guys can go ahead and stand up, and then Shelby and Sarah will be releasing you all. few more. I'm gonna wait. There's a few more people up there. Yes. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your meal. And it still sounds like we're having a good time. Great. All right. Can I get a quick round of applause for Aladdin's who catered this delicious meal this evening? Tonight we are here to celebrate literacy and lifelong learning. The Booklovers Ball is a culmination of events throughout the Library District's All Pueblo Reads Literacy Project. Throughout the month-long All Pueblo Reads project, the Pueblo City County Library District welcomed thousands of guests to more than 200 All Pueblo Reads programs and events hosted by the library. Many of you received the monthly Discover Your Library program guide, and you know the sheer quantity of programs your Pueblo Library has to offer each month. For those of you who are not familiar with our program guide, I will give you just a taste of how many activities your community library offers on a monthly basis. In just the month of October, PCCLD provided more than 900 library programs to the community. Can I get a round of applause for that? So, if anyone in Pueblo ever says they're bored, just point them towards their public library. The Booklovers Ball is a program of All Pueblo Reads. All Pueblo Reads is a literary project designed to get everyone in Pueblo County reading and discussing one book at the same time. The 2023 selection is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. To accompany our All Pueblo Reads book, we chose 2 companion books that we paired with virtual author talks and age-appropriate curriculum. Our youth book selection was Over and Under the Pond by Kate Messner. This children's book explores the rich and interconnected ecosystem of a mountain pond, revealing the hidden world of minnows darting, beavers diving, and tadpoles growing and developing. Our young adult book selection was Song for a Well by Lynn Kelly. And if the description of this book doesn't make you somewhat kind of well up and a little bit get emotional, you may be dead inside. This middle school level novel is about a deaf girl named Iris who is fascinated by technology and befriends a whale named Blue 55, who is unable to communicate with other whales and is known as the loneliest whale on Earth. Right? This story follows Iris's journey to create a song that matches Blue 55's frequency so she can let him know that he's not alone. And that's a middle school level book. These books, along with our chosen book, Remarkably Bright Creatures, were titles that were featured and discussed throughout this year's All Pueblo Reads. In order to fulfill the project's goal, this year we set out to make sure that book clubs, schools, families, and the overall community had an opportunity to read the selected books. The 2023 All Pueblo Reads project provided nearly 2,000 books to our community, as well as 3,200 Pueblo Zoo nature guides. This is a record number of books and materials provided to members of our community. Each of our All Pueblo Reads activities culminate to tonight's Booklovers Ball and presentation from best-selling author Shelby Van Pelt, author of Remarkably Bright Creatures. Shelby is with us this evening to give a presentation on her award-winning book, Remarkably Bright Creatures, as it was selected to help the library promote literacy and dialogue across cultural, generational, and socioeconomic lines. Remarkably Bright Creatures and all accompanying books were selected by a book selection committee. This group comes together early in the year to discuss possible selections and themes that are featured as part of the yearly All Pueblo Reads program. I would like to recognize the members of the book selection committee. If you are in attendance this evening, please stand to be recognized. Dustin Hodge, Rhonda Holcomb, Jill Clevin, Amy Martin, Doreen Martinez, Hannah Moody Gu, Juan Morales, Nick Potter, and Sarah Schwartz. Thank you for your work in selecting some great titles this year. I really don't think we could have chosen any better books for this year's activities. We are here tonight to support the Pueblo City County Library District so it can continue to make a positive impact within our community. As part of our fundraising efforts, please take time to visit the silent auction table. Among many great items, you have the opportunity to receive 20 silent auction items, including a trip to Dillon, a spending spree in Cripple Creek, and a fun night out with many great experiences here on the town, as well as a hand-quilted book-themed quilt, and I think my personal favorite, a free night in the Books Again bookstore without any other customers, and you can do whatever books by the bag shopping you want without anybody there. You know, throwing that out there for you book folks. Yes. Woo! The silent auction will close 10 minutes following the conclusion of this evening's program. And now, please allow me to thank the generous sponsors and underwriters of tonight's event. Donors at the diamond level, Friends of the Pueblo Library and Books Again Bookstore, and Black Hills Energy. Donors at the gold level: Bank of the San Juans, H.W. Houston Construction, Ken and Gayla White Family Foundation. And donors at the silver level: Benefits Broker, Collins, Cole, Flynn, Wynn, and Ulmer Law Firm, Credit Union of Colorado, Gold High School, Pueblo Community College, and Pueblo Community Health Center. And donors at the bronze level include HDM Architects, InBank, Pueblo Kiwanis Foundation, Minnequa Works Credit Union, Pueblo Mall, and Royal Electrical Services. And last, but certainly not least, our bar and table wine sponsor, Big Bear Wine and Liquor. Thank you all for your support of the Pueblo Library Foundation. Your support of the Booklovers Ball has made this event a great success. We are so grateful for your advocacy of library services in our community. Thank you. I am now pleased to introduce the board members who support, volunteer, and love our community's library and are here joining us this evening. When I read your name, please stand to be recognized. From the Pueblo City County Library District Board of Trustees, Frederick Quintana. Dustin Hodge. Jeffrey D. Herrera. And Doreen Martinez. From the Pueblo Library Foundation Board of Directors, Jesse Onis, Timothy Krebs, Joe Arrigo, Brandis Esslinger, Abby Hartless, Dustin Hodge, doing double duty, Antoinette Ramos, Alexandria Romero, Teresa Terrioltz, Gayla Whites, and Elizabeth Gallegos. And from the Friends of the Pueblo Library, from the Friends of the Pueblo Library Board of Directors, Jan Hoover, Jeffrey D. Herrera, Antoinette Ramos, Teresa Terrioltz, Adina Vega, Marissa Stoller, Randy Mohar, Nicole Wiseman, and Sophia Medine. The Pueblo Library is so fortunate to have many people volunteer, advocate, and support its current and future endeavors. The members of these boards, as well as our Books Again bookstore volunteers, are true assets to PCCLD, and their efforts should be recognized, appreciated, and respected. Thank you all so much. In addition to our amazing board members, PCCLD is very fortunate to be led by the amazing direction of Sherry Baca. Sherry became the leader of Pueblo Library District about a year ago and has led the library district fearlessly. She has led the library through the completion of the Rawlings renovation project and is charging headfirst into the renovation of some of our branch facilities. Unfortunately, Sherry is unable to be with us this evening. Sadly, she came down with COVID yesterday. The COVID virus is the only thing that would keep Sherry from attending this event. And I'm sure that her husband had to tie her down somewhere trying to make sure she didn't come here. She wanted to extend her apologies and her regards. She really wanted to be here this evening, and I know that she's watching us virtually, and I know that all of you completely have all of your thoughts and best wishes for her. So, yes. I'm proud tonight to provide Sherry's original address to you all. I hope that you like the sound of my voice because you're going to hear it a lot tonight. Good evening, and welcome to the Robert Hope Rawlings Public Library and to the Booklovers Ball during All Pueblo Reads. Specifically, welcome to the Riles Grand Event Space. And isn't this venue grand? The Riles Grand Event Space is a premier venue offering some of the most stunning views of our city. I want to thank Dr. and Mrs. Riles for their support of this new space and for continuing to partner with the public library. We appreciate you both being here with us this evening. The Rawlings Library renovation was a more than $12 million project, of which $2.5 million was raised from library supporters. Some of our naming rights donors are here with us this evening. Without the support of these donors, the renovations of the Rawlings Library would not be possible. I'd like to acknowledge the donors in attendance who supported the Rawlings renovation and whose names grace areas of our beautiful building. These donors include Mr. Michael Val, represented by Sarah Irene Val. Yes. Dr. Jarvis and Mrs. Mary Jo Riles. The Friends of the Pueblo Library and the Books Again bookstore. All Phase Environmental, Brandis Esslinger. HW Houston Construction. And Nick Potter and Simon Tierpak. Thank you so much for your generosity. Without you, this community asset and wonderful facility would not be possible. In our effort to provide the best possible public library system in our community, our work to renew public libraries in Pueblo continues with our new plans to renovate the Barkman and Lucero libraries. Both library branches are well-established library locations and are the next library buildings to be renovated, refreshed, and expanded. These facilities are some of our busiest locations and in the most need of expansion and renovation. These locations are overflowing with activity. Reimagining and expanding these facilities is needed for us to continue to do our work in these communities. We are an organization that plans well, and these projects are a part of a master facilities plan created 4 years ago to guide our renovations. Within this plan, we aim to update all libraries in Pueblo through the end of the current decade. It is an ambitious plan, but it speaks to our commitment to provide excellent facilities and top-notch library services to Puebloans. This goal speaks to the library's mission of offering welcoming, well-equipped, and maintained facilities. I want to spend a moment to tell you about each of these wonderful libraries. Many of you may know these details well if these are your home libraries. The Frank and Marie Barkman Library serves the neighborhoods including Belmont, Pueblo's North Side, Eastwood Heights, and beyond. So far this year, this library location checked out 68,618 books and materials and hosted 54,996 visitors. The renovation of the Barkman Library enlarges the building by 1/3 and incorporates a larger meeting room for hosting library programs and community events. A beautiful new pedestrian bridge will lead to the nearby green space, improving the neighborhood and offering a wonderful connection between the park and the Barkman Library. Since its opening in 2014, the Patrick A. Lucero Library has been fully embraced by Pueblo's historic East Side community. The Lucero Library uniquely operates in an area where 5 federally qualified census tracts are served. At all libraries, but especially at this location, we serve people of all ages and backgrounds. This library is a place where all community members can connect with one another, access information, and begin or continue lifelong learning. I'd like to highlight 2 examples of the great work being done at the Lucero Library. The recent Spice Library program provides cooking spices from all over the world. The Spice Library supports our mission by providing an opportunity for lifelong learning and presents access to information from around the world. The program is a great example of how the public library enhances daily life in ways not commonly known. Yay for the Spice Library. The Hard Knocks Gang Prevention Program, provided by Mark Salazar, is another example of how the Lucero Library serves its community and works to create a better future. The Hard Knocks Gang Prevention and Intervention Program seeks to help at-risk youth and adults make positive, healthy choices and take small steps that lead to big, positive changes within their lives. As an aside, these are all programs made possible by the financial support from our friends of the library and Books Again Bookstore. Membership and book sales at our Books Again Bookstore provide the funding for these 2 magnificent and innovative programs. Sure. The work of today's public library has many facets. It's a community center, provides access to information and educational programming, and serves as a lifeline to resources and connections. Libraries throughout the Pueblo City County Library District offer a wide range of programs and services that support the community. In addition to programs at the Lucero Library, the Pueblo Library also offers citizenship courses, English as a second language services, a high school degree program, job search assistance, early childhood education programs, and countless cultural programming. In today's digital age, the work of the public library is ever important. Digital equity and navigation are increasingly important services provided by public libraries. Libraries are an access point to digital resources such as ebooks, audiobooks, and online databases that can help people learn new skills and stay informed. And in our digital age, libraries continue to be a place where people can come together to learn and grow. These days, anyone with a library card can check out a digital device, such as a laptop, a Wi-Fi enabled tablet, or a hotspot, which provides important access to online resources. We offer research assistance, technology training, and other resources that can help people develop new skills. In serving as a community hub, sparking conversation, discussion, and community engagement, it is not surprising that public libraries are often at the forefront of innovation. Libraries are a place where people can come together to share ideas and perspectives that shape our world. As a public library, we provide spaces where everyone is welcome, where people can use technology, read books, or watch movies and spend time at no cost. Very soon, PCCLD will venture into supporting the healthcare access of the Colorado City and Rye areas. Library patrons of our Greenhorn Valley Library will soon be able to check out the equipment needed for a telehealth visit. This critical access to healthcare is a great opportunity extended to PCCLD by the state of Colorado. Indeed, public libraries provide for their communities a wonderful return on investment, and they are an important resource of information and resources needed in our modern world. Libraries have been around for centuries and continue to be a key building block that encourages the joy of reading. Libraries also support lifelong learning and provide access to information from around the world. I mentioned earlier that we are starting our renovations for the Barkman and Lucero branch libraries. These libraries are key assets and lifelines for many living in the communities that they serve. Just as we did with the Rawlings Library, PCCLD will initiate a capital campaign so we can refresh these wonderful and impactful facilities for the Pueblo community. We have named the campaign for the Barkman and Lucero libraries Building Community Together, because that's exactly what we're doing, building community together. With this capital campaign, we are raising $2 million of $9 million of the total renovation and refresh costs of the Barkman and Lucero libraries. This public-private partnership is a critical component that we need to be successful in providing well-equipped library facilities for our community. Investing in public libraries is a testament to Pueblo's commitment to literacy and learning. It is a worthy cause deserving of community support. Thank you so much for being here tonight and for your continued investment in our work to strengthen Pueblo as the place we are proud to call our home. Thank you and enjoy the Booklovers Ball and the remainder of All Pueblo Reads. I know Sherry's watching this, and I know that she is just so happy that you are all here and she can hear that applause. So thank you guys for sending that her way. The campaign for the Barkman and Lucero libraries is called Building Community Together because libraries serve as key institutions within a community, act as what is called a third space. Third spaces are a concept of informal spaces that are neither one's home nor a workspace, where people can build relationships and engage in social interaction. They provide a safe haven for kids, offer technology classes, and provide after-school support. Public libraries, like the Barkman and Lucero libraries, offer a range of programs and events that bring people together of different generations, socioeconomic backgrounds, and ethnicities. I invite you to join us in building community by donating to the Barkman and Lucero capital campaigns. Envelopes at your table are provided, and they provide more information about the project, as well as an opportunity for you to support this worthy project. Thank you for your consideration. And now, our featured presentation. Each year, PCCLD, through the All Pueblo Reads project, features a piece of literature and brings an author to promote dialogue across cultural, generational, and socioeconomic lines. The All Pueblo Reads Committee meets to select a book and an author to feature. In addition to the book and author selection, the All Pueblo Reads Committee develops the themes and constructs plans for supplemental programming and community events that tie in with the themes of the selected book. In the past 5 weeks, All Pueblo Reads events have featured 20 community partners who have incorporated their chosen book within their activities. On September 29th, PCCLD welcomed 950 people to the All Pueblo Reads kickoff. This event, themed Under the Sea Carnival, kicked off 5 weeks of programming around the theme of this year's book. This is the 19th year of All Pueblo Reads, and the selected book for 2023 is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. We are pleased. Yes, go ahead. I did brag to Shelby earlier in the evening that the community loved her book, and you guys are showing up. So thank you so much for all of that love you're showing towards this great selection. We are pleased to host Shelby this evening, and we look forward to her speech and insights into her wonderful book. Shelby Van Pelt is an author who was born and raised in the Pacific Northwest. She currently resides in the suburbs of Chicago with her family. She is a longtime flash fiction and short story writer and has had several collections published by independent presses. Her debut novel, Remarkably Bright Creatures, was published in 2022 by Echo, HarperCollins, and Bloomsbury. The novel tells the story of an octopus named Marcellus, who is determined to escape his enclosure and the humans who are trying to keep him confined. Shelby was inspired to write the novel after watching an internet video of an octopus trying to escape its enclosure. She did extensive research on giant Pacific octopi to make Marcellus's personality and actions believable. Remarkably Bright Creatures was nominated for a Goodreads Choice Award for Best Fiction and Best Debut Novel in 2022. It was featured in Glamour's Best Books of 2022 and Good Housekeeping's Best Books of 2022. Additionally, it was a BBC Radio two book club pick. Amazon also named it a #1 book so far in 2022. Remarkably Bright Creatures was featured at the Library of Congress's 2023 National Book Festival. I am pleased to welcome to the stage Remarkably Bright Creatures author, Mrs. Shelby Van Pelt.
I'm like blushing already. Thank you, Nick. That was amazing. I could not be more honored to be here today with you all. This is a beautiful venue, a beautiful crowd. The love for libraries and books and reading, I feel like, is just radiating off of all of you. And it is so, this is the floor creaking, by the way. I don't know if you can hear that. It is just amazing to be a part of this night and participate in this energy. Have my speech notes on a Dunkin' Donuts receipt. Normally, I always have a copy of my book with me that has my little index cards in it with my notes and such, but I don't know, it didn't make its way into my bag tonight, so Dunkin' Donuts. I'm normally a Starbucks girl, but sometimes when you're at the airport, you get what you get, right? As I said, I could not be more honored to be here. Libraries have had a huge role in my own life. I grew up in Tacoma, Washington, which, as we were discussing at the dinner table, has some fun nicknames. There's the aroma of Tacoma, Tacompton. I hadn't heard that one in a while. But I grew up in not such a nice neighborhood, and when I was a kid, especially in the summers, I was a latchkey kid. And there weren't like that many places that I was sort of allowed to go that were safe places, but my neighborhood library was one of those places that I could ride my bike to and spend the day there. And I don't want to turn this into an Anne M. Martin and Francine Pascal appreciation speech, but I spent a lot of time reading through every single Babysitter's Club and Sweet Valley Twins, and eventually moved on to Sweet Valley High. And kind of was like sneaking those ones because I knew that the subject matter was probably a little bit more mature than what I was supposed to be reading at age like 9. But libraries were always my place to go, and really a place that cemented my love of reading, like questionable literature, but also really good literature. And my hometown library is a place that my kids, it's like their home away from home. We run in the door and they just kind of take off and know where they're going because it really is their, what do we call it, a third place? I've never heard that before. I love that. But that is to us what our library is. And Spice Library? Come on, I've never heard of that before, but I'm gonna bring that back home to my library and be like, you guys need to get on this. Pueblo is doing this, and it sounds amazing. Anyway, it's fantastic to be in Colorado. I always love coming west. I'm a West Coast girl at heart, even though I now live in Chicago, and it's always great to come and be in the mountains a little bit. I will forgive you all for the weather, which I landed yesterday, it was 80 degrees, and I was like, oh, this is nice. And I was in my hotel room this morning. I had actually a really good writing morning, which I don't get like several hours of sort of uninterrupted time that often. So I had a really productive morning. I was going to go out for lunch, and I had my little tank top on. Sunny. You could see it was sunny out the window. And I stepped outside and said, oh. Well, yeah, it was like a 50-degree drop overnight. Like, wow, it's impressive. But very much was enjoying the blue skies and the sunshine. And if you've read my book, you'll know that one of the things Marcellus likes to make fun of humans about is that we talk about the weather too much. So I'll go ahead and move on from that, because you guys probably want to hear about Marcellus, right? Far and away, the number one question that I get at any type of book event is just some form of like, why or how, or like, what kind of strange mind would come up with the idea of telling a very human story from a very non-human perspective, from a giant Pacific octopus's perspective. And as Nick mentioned, it really did just come from a random video on the internet, actually like a kind of a rabbit hole of videos. I came to writing, I don't want to say later in life, but I'm a self-taught writer. I didn't go to school for any kind of creative writing. I didn't really do a whole lot of creative writing until I was into my 30s. And I had a very boring spreadsheet job before that. And I had kind of a chance to take a break from that for a bit. And I thought, I'm going to try creative writing. I've always wanted to try this, and I'm going to make a go at it. And I just remember being in this frame of mind where I was just looking for characters everywhere in the world around me, whether I was in line at the grocery store and eavesdropping on the other people in line, or like at a coffee shop with my laptop trying to like listen to someone else's conversation and like soak up their drama and try to figure out how I could use it to make characters and stories of my own. And so I was in that headspace of sort of hunting for characters in the wild when I was procrastinating on my laptop one afternoon, and the YouTube algorithm of octopuses behaving badly just sucked me right in. And I just remember thinking to myself that that would be a really fun voice. What would that voice sound like? What a fun character that would be to write. A very stubborn, very smart octopus. I didn't know a whole lot about octopuses at the time, but I knew that they were very smart, remarkably bright, you might even say. And I just kind of had that little idea. It was a crumb of an idea, and I kind of swept it with the other crumbs of ideas that I'd been collecting into the back of my brain and stored it there. Not too long after that, I was taking the first creative writing class I had ever taken. It was a continuing education class at the college in my town. And so the sort of thing that like anyone can sign up for, not like a credit class, just like a community class. And one of the assignments that we got in that class was like, take out a piece of notebook paper, and we're gonna do this little exercise, almost like a warm-up exercise. And it was to just write from an unusual point of view. And so I remember thinking, well, octopus, like that's unusual. I think that qualifies. And I jotted out this little scene on this notebook paper, and it became the first pages of the book. I didn't set out really to write it as a novel. It was just this fun little character sketch. The instructor of that class, in a moment that changed my life, truly, pulled me aside and said, this is really cool. I think you should keep going with this. Just keep exploring this character. Like, I really want to read more. And it has always struck me as sort of just fascinating how one little thing like that can completely knock you onto a different trajectory. I wouldn't be standing here, I don't think, if she had not said that to me. And the character was interesting to me, but I don't know that I had enough confidence in it to say, I'm going to write, more of this. I'm going to really dedicate myself to writing a novel about this. But she nudged me. She kind of nudged me onto that path. And I was chatting with some folks before the event at the cocktail hour, and someone asked how long it took to write the book. And so this is where I have to admit that interaction, that class was like 10 plus years ago now. It took a while. I mean, I picked it up and put it down a lot in the many years between now and then. I also had children during those years, so there was some other things going on in my life that demanded my attention. But I kind of kept touching it enough to keep it, in the back of my mind at least all of those years. And eventually, when a couple things happened in 2019. One, I read the book Soul of an Octopus by Simon Montgomery. I don't know if any of you have read this book. It is fantastic. It's nonfiction. Simon Montgomery is a science and nature journalist, and she basically shadows folks that work at aquariums and handle octopuses and writes about their relationships with their octopuses and writes about her interactions with these octopuses. She actually has a new book coming out in March, like an add-on to Soul of an Octopus, because literally so much has changed about our knowledge of octopuses just in the last 5 or 6 years that she is, writing another kind of update book on it. But I read that and I kind of kicked my butt a little bit. It was like, okay, you made this character so many years ago, like you should really finish that book. The other thing that happened was my youngest child went to preschool. I was like, oh, I've got a few hours a day now to myself. So I would drop him off at preschool, and I would drive to my local library, which was my favorite place to write. We did not have a spice library, but we did have a coffee shop that would deliver coffee to your table that you were working at via their app. So there's an idea for Pueblo from Wheaton, Illinois. And so it was my place that I would camp out. It was, for me, so much better than a coffee shop because there was just this sense of being like, you're surrounded by books, you're surrounded by readers and reading, and you can have coffee delivered to your table, but you're not like pressured to buy anything. Like no one is watching you thinking like, oh, you have been camping out at this table for 4 hours and you've only bought one latte. So I spent a lot of time there, and from that point when I decided I am going to do this to when I finished the draft, it was probably like 7 or 8 months, so a relatively short amount of time. So that is a long answer to, I guess, that question of, how long did it take you? Well, 10 years, but also 8 months. And if you're doing the math, you'll realize that that drafting period wrapped right into the beginning of the pandemic. I am so glad that I had a rhythm established. I had a routine established. I had momentum established with my book going into COVID. Because I never would have chosen to write a book during COVID otherwise. I mean, I know that the pandemic was such a different experience for so many of us. People that did not have small children at home might have thought, well, this is a great time to write a book because I have all this time on my hands. I was sort of in the opposite situation. I had people physically crawling on me for a lot of the day. But, I don't know what I think. The pandemic coming into our lives sort of jolted me into really understanding that nothing is guaranteed that we get. Life can change on a dime. You don't know what next year is going to look like. So, no, let's not put the novel off. Let's keep going with it. Let's write it. Let's finish it. And so I did. I finished it in the summer of 2020. And I was getting ready to query it, which for those of you who don't know, just the path is that you have to query an agent first if you want to publish with a traditional publisher. And you get the agent, and then the agent takes it out and tries to sell it to a publisher. But the agent is always the first step. So okay, I'm going to query agents. I had my manuscript was all edited and beta read and ready, and my query letter was ready, and I was in the kitchen of my house, and my kids were watching Netflix in the other room, and I just remember hearing, we watched like 12 hours of Netflix a day, so it was just like the background of our lives. But something jumped out at me that I heard, and it was a trailer, and it said, "Oh, a heartwarming story of a friendship between a human and an octopus, and a remarkable friendship that you have to see it to believe it." All of these sort of superlatives. And it was, I don't know if any of you have seen the documentary My Octopus Teacher, but that was my octopus teacher. And I feel like all writers have this fear that you have a doppelganger on the other side of the world who is writing your same story and is going to do it better and faster and beat you to market with it. And so when I heard this, like, my heart broke. Like, I really thought that someone had made a movie of my story. Nothing is really, it's whatever. But I was devastated for a moment, and then I went and actually looked at it and then watched the documentary, and it was the biggest stroke of luck that I think I could have ever imagined for myself, to have my manuscript of this fictional story of a friendship between an octopus and a human be landing on agents' desks at the same time as this documentary about the same thing was sort of front of everyone's minds. And it ended up going on to win an Academy Award. So like it kind of stayed very culturally relevant for quite a while. Hugely lucky. I did not plan that, but I certainly benefited from it. Octopuses are definitely having a moment. I got an agent relatively quickly, which is something that I can't always say in the company of other writers and aspiring authors, because typically it is a very long and unpleasant process to be querying your novel and trying to get representation. But for me, it happened really quickly, I think, in large part because of this cultural moment that octopuses were and are having. And everything since then has been honestly kind of a blur. New York Times bestseller lists. I got to go on the Today Show with Jenna Bush-Hager and Hoda, and now I'm standing here with you guys in Pueblo. So, so that is sort of the origin story. Definitely the number one question that I get is just like, how did this book come about? So that's sort of how it came about and how it came to land on your tables this evening. I think one of the things that surprised me most about writing the book, so writing from a non-human point of view, and if you've read the book, you'll know that the sections that Marcellus narrates are literally like 10% of the book or less. It's a book about humans. It's not necessarily a book about an octopus, even though he is sort of the backbone of it, even though he doesn't have a backbone. And the thread that binds the human characters together. It's a book about humans. It's a book about grief and about loneliness. And, I knew that I needed something sort of thematically to bind these characters together. I knew that I wasn't just going to be able to have this octopus sort of ranting for 300 pages. No one would want to read that. Although in hindsight, I think some of you might want to read that. So I started thinking, okay, how can I use this point of view, this Marcellus point of view, to really explore humans a little bit. And Marcellus, you'll know if you've read the book, is incredibly judgy. He does not think very highly of humans, at least at the beginning. He thinks that he is the superior species. One of the things about writing an octopus versus writing another intelligent animal is that we actually don't know what is going on inside their strange bodies. Octopuses came up on a totally different branch of evolution from humans. They do not have, in addition to not having a spinal cord, they don't really have a brain in the way that we think of a brain. Their brain is distributed among all of their arms. And so each of their arms can have their own personalities. There's a really fun meme that circulates around. I have a t-shirt of it at home. It's like an octopus reading 8 different books with one of each arm. Or my favorite one, there's an octopus that's cooking, and it's like one arm stirring the sauce, and one arm is doing the noodles, and one arm is pouring the wine, and one arm is doing all the, like, that meme is so funny to me because it's actually kind of true. Like, if octopuses could read books, they really could read 8 different books at once with each hand. And sometimes I think of how much more easy my job would be if they could do that. And I'm sure for some of you folks that are in the book industry and in libraries, it would be really nice to be able to consume 8 things at once with 8 different brains. But anyway, it was all fun and games at first. I was like, I'm writing this octopus. He's really snarky. He's a lot of fun to write. Having Marcellus around was my cure for writer's block. Anytime if I sat down at my computer and didn't know what I was going to write that day, I would just kind of peek in on Marcellus and say, well, what's he doing? Like, he's got a hot take for everything, so what is he going off about today? But at some point I realized, okay, it's going to be more than that. It's going to be a meditation on humans, about the things that are really great about us and about the things that we maybe could do better. Part of the evolution that Marcellus makes, even though he is sort of this narrator, this minor character, he does have a character arc. And in my mind, I always think of his character arc as being a movement from being simply judgmental of humans to sort of holding us to a higher standard. You know, from thinking, okay, we're not doing a very good job of communicating, we're not doing a very good job of moving through the world, to thinking, we could do so much better at communicating and at moving through this world. And sometimes I like to think of there being like a little Marcellus on my shoulder, kind of like the bug from the movie Jiminy Cricket. Thank you. A little Jiminy Cricket Marcellus, not as annoying as Jiminy Cricket, more snarky, but just kind of holding me to that higher standard and always asking me to ask myself whether I can be doing better at something. I know that I said thank you to you guys all for being here tonight. I want to reiterate that. And, you know, Nick/Sherry was her, Sherry, hi Sherry, Sherry, right? Nick, as Sherry sort of touched on this in the opening, but like, this is so important, you guys. Libraries are so important. I feel like books are so important. You know, especially, it's not just a coming out of a pandemic thing. I think that certainly sort of heightened our sense of division and isolation and loneliness. But I've had the pleasure of meeting with a lot of book clubs over the last year and a half. And, you know, I'm in a book club. I've been in a book club for a long time. I had always just kind of thought, oh, it's fun. It's like, it's an excuse to get together and drink wine. Like, it's great, you know, who doesn't love that? But in the course of, you know, being with my own book club and also having the opportunity to meet with all of these other book clubs, I have really come to believe that reading together, reading as a community, coming together over a book is something that is so much more important than just getting together to drink wine. Books are really like a shortcut to vulnerability. They allow us to discuss and to connect in ways that we wouldn't normally think to connect. Had a really wonderful interaction a few months ago. I was in one of the independent bookshops in the Chicago area with my kids, and we were, oh my gosh, you okay? We were like buying Easter stuff or something. I don't know what we were doing. I was not there shopping for myself, but this woman came up to me and she was like, oh, are you the author of that octopus book? And I was like, ooh, yes, I am. Sometimes people think that famous authors get recognized places, and like, no, we do not. That was the first and only time that has ever happened, and it was so cool. But, you know, she's, you know, had said that she had read her book, read my book with her book club, and she said that she had like passed it on to her mother-in-law. Her mother-in-law had lost a child. Losing a child is one of the themes in her book. You know, it's a happy book, but it has some heavier themes, and that is one of them. And we just, for like half an hour, had this incredible exchange and conversation around healing and loss and grief and moving on. And she was sharing stuff about her family, and I was sharing stuff about my family. And I didn't even know this woman's name. And it just struck me as like, that's what books do. Books allow us to connect with one another. And we're in a new mode. And you all being here tonight and supporting the library and supporting community reads programs is just, I hope that one day history sort of looks back on this time, because let's be honest, there's a lot of not fun stuff going on at this time. It's been a hard week, it's been a hard month, it's been a hard few years, and part of me worries that it's not necessarily going to get better. But I kind of hope that maybe we can still have programs like this. We can still have our book clubs. We can still have this place where we can disagree with one another. We can practice how to disagree with one another. That's something that we don't, I feel like, get a lot of practice at anymore in life. It's so easy to just be, with your people, online, and you're kind of in an echo chamber, and you're with, the algorithm just pushes you toward kind of the things that you would agree with anyway, and we just don't get a lot of chance to practice, like having discussions with people who maybe don't hold our same exact beliefs. And you go to a book club or a community reads event, and like, hey, maybe you're talking about like, I really liked the ending of the book and you really hated it, and we're going to talk it out. That's a total like no stakes debate, right? But it's a chance to practice that, and it's a chance to connect over something with someone who you might not connect with on other topics. So that's my little love letter to book clubs. I feel like, are we running out of time? Are we behind time? Okay. Well, I think we're going to take some questions. So if we want to move to that, we definitely can. I don't want to keep you guys here all night. But again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for supporting this program. This is you. This is a really cool, slick system.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
If we didn't want to welcome you to the bubble before your speech, I feel like now we may just invite you to a slaughter for lunch tomorrow, and then we'll probably maybe get a schooner for dinner and just keep you here another couple weeks.
Will I have access to the Spice Library?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All spices you want. Well, we received a few questions from you all in the audience, and so I'd like to extend these to Shelby to answer. The first one that we received asks, what or who was your inspiration for Marcellus? His character is just so memorable.
Oh my gosh. Well, so I always, in addition to being sort of the YouTube octopus, when I was writing Marcellus's voice, I guess I should admit that his voice came very naturally to me, which I'm not sure what that says about me. If I was like a grumpy old man in a past life, because I really feel like he is the grumpy old man that a lot of us have in our families. It doesn't have to be a man, I'm not trying to gender it, but I had an uncle growing up who, we had these family gatherings at my grandmother's house, and her house was very small. It was like a 900 square foot house, and you get like 40 people in there, which still astonishes me. But everyone would be all packed together, but there was this one uncle that everyone kind of gave him like a wide berth around his easy chair, because if you came too close, you would get kind of sucked into like all of his opinions about things, like unsolicited opinions about meaningless things. It's like, he was a really nice guy, but it's like, dude, I do not care about your opinion about your neighbor's new porch setup. Like, so I feel like that's maybe who I was channeling a little bit when I was writing Marcellus, at least in the sort of fun parts where it's just like he's a bored octopus who has a lot of opinions.
I love that colorful family always comes into good colorful books.
Well, and here's something to know. If you suspect that fiction writers are observing you and putting you in their books, The answer is yes, we are. And if we do our job right, you will not notice.
Our next question is, at the end of the novel, Tova and Cameron realize how they are truly connected. As the author and creator, what are they doing a year after the novel has ended?
Oh, that's a great question. I'll try to do this it's not a spoilery thing. Yeah, I think this is fine. You know, I feel like for me, the best endings feel like beginnings. And so me, the end of the book really felt like a beginning for most all of the characters, Tova and Cameron among them. I really love the idea that they can have a relationship. I love Tova in her new condo. This is a spoiler, so plug your ears if you don't want a spoiler. But I have a lot of people, including my closest critique partner, who are still mad at me for letting her house get sold. I literally cannot say the word condominium around my good friend who worked with me on it because she's still mad about it. But I love this new life, and I picture them just thriving. I picture, like, Cameron's gonna finally make something of himself. He's taking classes, and Tova's got her slick waterfront condo. I love it.
Thank you. The third question is, what is your favorite line from the book?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm gonna do a Marcellus line, and it's one that sometimes actually comes up in book talks. If we had a little bit more time, I might have done a little reading for you guys, and line comes out of one of the chapters that I love to read, and it's where Marcellus says he wonders why humans, with their millions of words, cannot simply say what they mean. And that's when I talk about having that little Marcellus on my shoulder. I feel like that is his number one scold of me, because I'm so bad sometimes being, passive aggressive or just dancing around saying what I want. I think, especially women sometimes are sort of conditioned to be very nice about asking for what we want. But sometimes you really just need to use your words to ask for what you want.
So in the book, there's a T-shirt that gets ruined. So this references that T-shirt. Do you have a favorite band T-shirt that would devastate you if you lost or had mistaken it for a rag?
Oh my gosh. Well, I kind of do. It's not a band T-shirt per se. So I ran the Boston Marathon in 2013. Which, the clapping goes to when we remember what happened in 2013. Which it's again, not to be a downer, but watching so much of the events that happened in Maine this week, it was it reminded me so much of the aftermath of what happened at the Boston Marathon in 2013 with the bombing. And it wasn't my first, I've run 13 or 14 marathons. That was the last one that I've run. I never really meant for it to be my last one, but it was such an emotional ordeal with all of the chaos. And I happened to also get pregnant with my daughter right afterwards. So I sort of hung up my marathoning shoes I don't know that I meant for it to be forever, but it kind of has been. And so that is a T-shirt of, this race that was incredibly unusual, devastating, but unusual. Also the last marathon I ran. Also, I had worked my butt off to qualify, so it was it meant a lot to me. And I keep that thing in a sealed plastic bag in the highest shelf of my closet, because I would truly be devastated if someone used it to mop up red wine.
Can you talk more about your second book you're currently working on?
Oh my gosh. Well, so currently working on is definitely the right way to describe it. It's still in its pretty early stages. I actually have two books that I kind of kick back and forth between. I am not totally certain which one is going to stick. Yeah, I always struggle with how to answer this question because I don't want to feel like, oh, I'm complaining about how hard it is to write a book, because of course it's hard to write a book. But I do think there is something a little bit special about second books. And I have heard this from a number of authors that I've had the good fortune to meet over the last year or so, authors who are much further along their career curve. And all of them have said the same thing. They're like, your second book is going to suck to write. This is a thing. It's especially when you have a first book that has enjoyed some success. Now you're sort of writing in the shadow of something. And, you all love Marcellus. I also love Marcellus. I miss Marcellus. It's very tempting to somehow try to bring him back because, in everything that I write, when I'm trying to write in a novel, it sort of does feel like there's a Marcellus-shaped hole in it that I haven't yet figured out how to fill. And maybe I won't figure out how to fill it, but it's a challenge. It's been a challenge. My agent, fortunately, has been very supportive and just take your time. You'll get there when you get there. And I'm not actually under contract for a second book, so it truly is just it's on me. But part of me thinks maybe I should be under contract because I'm very deadline driven. So it's very easy to just, when I was writing Remarkably Bright, I guess a couple things were different. The first thing is that I never thought anyone was going to read it, outside of my critique group and my husband. And there's a real freedom in that when you're just truly writing, you're entertaining yourself and you're doing something that feels good and you're putting a story down that you like and you're not thinking about, are other people going to like it? There's so much that goes into making a book on the marketing side, like where does this sit on the shelf? Who is the reader of this book? What is the genre? I feel like all of those things are very valid to think about when you're in the editing process or in the marketing process, but they're so unhelpful to have floating around in your head when you're trying to just draft something, for me anyway. So my struggle has been sort of how to cleave my brain into a half that, is up here talking to you about books and about my book and about how much we all love Marcellus, and then also have a half of my brain that can write without thinking about any of that and can go back to that frame of mind that I was in when I wrote the first book, where I was not thinking about, the audience, was not thinking about standing up here talking about such a book. I was on a panel with Samantha Chang, who wrote The Family Chow. Fantastic book. We were at a lit festival in Wisconsin, and we were on this panel together. And one of the audience questions that we got was just how do you finish a book? I don't remember what the question was. It was a pretty generic question. But she said something that has stuck with me since. And she said, and she's a much more experienced writer. She's head of the Iowa MFA program. She's very accomplished. And she said, in order to finish a book, I have to convince myself that it's going to fail. And it was like a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, oh, I get that. If you're thinking about, if you're already basking in the glory of having finished, you're never going to get it finished. You have to convince yourself that you're just doing it for the love of doing it. And so I've been trying to incorporate that into my daily writing, and it's helped. Did you love my 5-minute non-answer to that question? You all asked about my second book, and I just stood up here and rambled about how hard it is. No, so the two books are just again, it's early. Neither one is a sequel. They both do involve animals or creatures in some way, but not in a point of view kind of way. So that's as much as I can say.
I just think with that answer, you have a career in politics. We have time for one more question. The final question is, what is a question that you're always hoping you'll be asked, but have never been given a chance to answer?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know who wrote that one, but that's an A+. I think one thing that it always surprises me how infrequently it comes up is the idea of why doesn't Marcellus just leave the aquarium? He clearly is smart enough to do so. You know, the capabilities that he has demonstrated in other areas, sort of interacting with his physical world, would certainly suggest that this is within his reach to be able to just leave. But he doesn't. And at one point, he's actually standing by the door, and he doesn't. And you know, that was a deliberate choice. I think Marcellus is afraid, and it was really delicate to try to write that in through a character. Marcellus is the only first-person point of view that we get in the book, and when you have a first-person point of view, all the readers get of Marcellus is what Marcellus wants you to know of him, right? And he's kind of all bluster. He would never admit, I don't think, that he's afraid, but I think he absolutely is. He has that soft spot that he doesn't really care to share, but I think is there under the surface that, you know, this place it's a prison. It's not what he would have wanted. These, you know, incompetent humans are running the show and they're just so awful, but it's also home, you know? And what is on the other side of that wall is not really familiar to him anymore, and it's scary. So that's one of my favorite questions to discuss, and I'm always like so excited when it comes up at a book talk, and it rarely does.
Well, thank you so much for this great.
Thank you all. I have literally never had people stand up before, so thank you.
So I joked and said we were going to have sloppers tomorrow, and if you don't know what a slopper is, somebody at your table will discuss it. It's the Pueblo Pride and Joy. But as you can tell, we've really embraced you this time that we've been able to celebrate your book. So thank you very much, Shelby. Our community has enjoyed Remarkably Bright Creatures throughout this All Pueblo Reads. If you want to hear more from Shelby or know others who would enjoy hearing from her, we will be back here tomorrow at the Rawlings Library at 11 a.m. Be sure to tell your friends and family as mocktails and appetizers will be provided. Doors open at 10 a.m. I want to remind everyone that the silent auction closes 10 minutes after this program is concluded. Now is a great time to check on your bids at the silent auction table. The bars will also close at 9:30, so you'll have time to get another drink and enjoy the evening. Also, as a reminder, outside these front doors, CSU Pueblo is selling copies of the book. So if you would like to purchase another copy or your first copy to be signed by Shelby, they're available for purchase just outside of the doors. And finally, I want to thank the staff that made tonight possible. The community relations team worked tirelessly to make this evening a beautiful success. Thank you to Sarah Schwartz, Ann Boyden, Dave Hayden, Shelby McCormick, and this is Shelby's first week. She started here Tuesday and got thrown into this craziness, so great job, Shelby. Gloria Madrill, Jay Ramos, and Michelle Vigil. These individuals deserve a huge round of applause for their hard work and dedication. We will begin the book signing and photo opportunities in just a few minutes. The line will begin to queue just in front of the elevators. Staff will be at the front of the line to assist you with the book signing. Again, books are available for purchase from the CSU Pueblo bookstore just outside of this room. This concludes our evening. We look forward to seeing you all back here in 2024 for the 2024 Book Lovers Ball. Thank you again for coming this evening, and have a great night.